Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I want to thank you for joining the Spiritist Talk series, which is promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation. We are live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And I am delighted to be here and be able to host today's talk, which is going to give it to us by Al Turri. And hi, Al, how are you
Hi.
doing? It's been a while since we've seen each other. So good to be here. And now I am thrilled to know that you're going to be talking about one of the most amazing and favorite books of mine, The Good News. And I want to all of us here in this live to give Al a very warm welcome. And before he starts his presentation, I would just ask you to allow me to introduce him in case you do not know him yet. Al Turri has been an active worker at the Spiritist Movement in the US as a speaker in several national symposia. He is also a regular speaker at the Peace and Knowledge Spiritist Center in Orlando, where he also teaches classes on Spiritism 101, among other courses. Professionally, Al Turri is a director of audiology for the Villages Health System in Orlando, Florida. Please take this opportunity to be here, be present, put your comments, your questions in the chat so that Al, who has reserved time to address your comments, can do so at the very end. With that, Al, the mic is yours. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Marcy. It's so nice to see you. I wish we were live and I could give you a hug. It's always a pleasure to be in your presence, and thank you for that kind introduction. And thank you to the USSF for the invite. I enjoy these talks so much, and I appreciate the opportunity to share the good news with you. This book has been something I've read several times over the years. It came to my attention again. Um, let's see, some months ago when it won a award from the Illumination Book Awards, silver medal actually in the category of spirituality. For those of you that aren't familiar with this Illumination Book Awards, as I wasn't, I just simply saw this announcement through the center. They sent it out. I looked them up, and they recognize Christian literature every year, and there's many different categories. Again, this book won the silver medal in the category of spirituality, and it just goes to show you how Spiritism is growing, influencing the world. We talk about the lessons that of universal laws, right, and the good news in Christ's lessons, right, and it's just awesome to see that it's receiving attention like this. The good news, for those of you that have not read it, was written by the Spiritist author, right, Humberto de Campos, channeled, psychographed by Chico Xavier. There's a book cover there for you if you haven't seen it. And a little bit more about the authors. Chico Xavier was just an amazing, prolific medium, right? Over 400 psychographed books in his lifetime. I had the privilege of touring his home on one of my trips to Brazil, and it was amazing to see the room that he slept in, the house that he lived in, and just the humbleness and the simple life that he led, devoting his life to receiving amazing messages and sharing them with the world. And we get to talk about that today. It's also amazing that he quit school at 14 to help support his family, and in the process of having a regular job, did all of this as well. Humberto de Campos passed from this physical life at a young age. He had complications from surgery related to his eye, I believe. During his lifetime, he was very active politically. He was an author, very well respected in some circles and not so in other circles because of some of those views. But after his death, from the after his death, he communicated through Chico as continued his message. The main purpose of this book is the Spiritist perspective on the life and teachings of Christ. We talk about this a lot in different lectures and different talks, different books, and the good news historically is associated with the gospel, right? The Bible, if you will. And this book is that Spiritist interpretation of Christ's life from a Spiritist perspective. It's informative. It follows 30 chapters, each with a different reflection of scenes from the gospel, right? The Bible as we know it, the New Testament, the good news, right? But it takes those lessons from the parables of Christ and the stories of Christ, and Emmanuel the authors share here with us the spiritual lessons on humility, charity, forgiveness, and reincarnation. So let's start just highlighting some of these chapters that I have come to really enjoy. I can't touch on all of them today, but let's talk about, I think the biggest takeaway here for me was where most of Jesus's time on earth was spent assisting the marginalized, right? Chapter 6, right, talks about the leper. And remember, lepers were not embraced, right? They were rejected by society. They were consumed by loneliness. And this leper in this chapter approaches Jesus with fear and hope, right? And the crowd around Christ at the time, there's horror, right? That here's a leper getting close to people. And rather than recoiling, like I probably would have, or others of the time would have, Christ embraces the man, offering him not only healing of his body, but restoration and dignity to his soul, much to the chagrin and defying the social norms and the religious taboos of the time. So I think this chapter really shares the divine love of Christ and how it excludes no one. We are all invited to partake, embrace, and receive that love. It reminds us also that Christ didn't come to help the healthy necessarily, right? He came for those in need, and this leper was obviously in need, and that's an endless, timeless lesson for us. And there'll be more of these as we talk, including the next chapter that I highlight here, chapter 12. The woman at Simon's house, right, of ill repute, I guess, or known for sinning a bit in her lifetime, not someone that you would necessarily invite into your home if you were of the times, right? But this woman comes into the house. She washes Christ's feet with her tears, dries his feet with her hair, anointing them with perfume. And obviously, this is scandalous for the other guests. But Jesus doesn't recoil. He sees the purity of her intent, and instead of condemning her past, he honors her act of love, using it to teach a lesson, right? For those who love deeply are forgiven much, right? Divine love, again, excludes no one. Just as in the chapter 6 lesson, we see that again here. Going on to another big topic in this book, right? Chapter 23, right? Forgiveness and compassion. We are all aware of Peter's denial, right? By the time the rooster crowed 3 times, right? Peter, just as Christ had predicted, Peter denied him 3 times. And I think the takeaway here is realizing that Christ's prediction came true, Peter was overwhelmed with the weight of this failure, nearly crushing him. But instead of condemnation, Jesus meets Peter with deep compassion, right? In a quiet, intimate moment, he forgives Peter, not with words of reproach, but with a loving gaze and a mission to continue his work. And that symbolic message, right? Forgiveness transforms lives. So I like to think of this is for my transgressions over lifetimes, I can be forgiven. I can forgive myself, right? And more importantly, I can forgive others. So I think from this chapter, I just ask, who can we forgive, right? Me, who can I forgive? Who can you forgive? I love this quote, to forgive is to understand the soul's struggle on the path to light. Moving on, there's lessons from the apostles as well, right, in this book. Chapter 30, right, doubting Thomas, right? Thomas doubts. He hears from the other apostles who had seen Christ, touched his wounds and seen him after the resurrection. Peter had not, and he doubted. I need to see this for himself, right? And Thomas, struggling to believe the testimony, he declared that he has to see and touch Jesus for himself. So Jesus appears and gently invites Thomas to see and feel for himself, offering reassurance as opposed to scolding. And I think for me, the takeaway from this and the intent here is it's okay to question God. I grew up in a faith, in a religion where blind faith was just the expectation. If you questioned, why is this, why is that, the answer frequently was because that's the way it is, right? And I think this reinforces the fact that blind faith is not the way it should be. It's okay to question God. It's okay to question these teachings. Faith's not forced. It grows through grace, through relationships, and through love. So this chapter reminds us that doubt can be a step towards deeper conviction when met with patience and guidance. Chapter 32 is huge, right? Saul becomes Paul. But what we have to remember here, right, is Saul was a fierce persecutor of early Christians. He murdered these Christians, right? He chased them. That was one of his reasons for being on the road, right? He was looking for apostles, for followers of the way. And on his road to Damascus, he has a vision. He's struck with blindness. Jesus appears to him, not to condemn him, but to call him into purpose. And from this encounter, Saul is spiritually reborn as Paul, a tireless apostle of the good news. And I think this chapter emphasizes not just Paul's inner struggle and repentance, but ultimately ours and our surrender to service, definitely his surrender to service. His fiery passion is redirected towards spreading love, truth, and the teachings of Christ. And I think all of us can learn from this. We can all be an example to others, and we can share that light that is shared with us. Ultimately, I think the takeaway here is we're all walking a path of spiritual evolution. And the master saw the seed of greatness in every frailty. There's different parables discussed throughout this book. The prodigal son, I really enjoyed the takeaway in this chapter. It really speaks to the intimate love and mercy, right? True spiritual growth really happens with both discipline and love. I think it speaks to that divine forgiveness, that divine mercy. Remember, the story is not just about a son who squanders his inheritance and returns home in shame. It's a symbol of humanity's spiritual exile, if you will, and return to God. We can all drift away. We can all make mistakes. We will, and we do. But ultimately, I think the prodigal son represents any soul who distanced itself from that divine love, and then seeking fulfillment, in the mature world, ultimately realizes the emptiness and the suffering that transpires in that pursuit. And beginning your journey back, I could, if we had hours, I could tell you several instances and personal stories of this. But I think we all understand, right? We have our challenges. We drift, we question, we falter. But this chapter really speaks to this journey and a state of spiritual harmony. I think the Father in that story represents God's unconditional love for us. The divine is always ready to embrace us once we open our hearts in sincerity. And I think the elder brother's resentment illustrates our spiritual pride, right? Or the spiritual pride of those who follow rules but lack compassion. Being true to Christ's teachings, or knowing the rules and following the rules externally, but not having true compassion, we're missing the point, if you will. So that spiritual growth really requires not just the discipline, but also the love. So core themes there would be intimate mercy and forgiveness, that inner transformation. Ultimately, every parable is a map, holds the map to the soul's return to the Father, as you can see quoted there. Moving on, there's a lot of opportunity in this book to understand the role of suffering. Specifically here, I highlight chapter 40, the cross, right? Jesus embraces suffering. And I think this is crucial. I grew up seeing Christ hanging on a cross in places of worship and in homes, and a lot of time and talk being spent on the crucifixion, almost believing that the death of Christ was the message, right? That yes, he died for us, but that symbolic death became the main image for me. And what I love about chapter 40, it really dives into how remember Christ elected this. He chose to do this, right? It wasn't forced. And I think it really speaks of Jesus's journey towards acceptance of the cross, rather than portraying the cross as merely an instrument of death or defeat. I love how this chapter and Spiritism in general represents it as the ultimate expression of love, right? Self-sacrifice and spiritual triumph. Jesus doesn't resist the suffering of the cross. He instead embraces it with serenity and purpose. It's emphasized here that Jesus wasn't a victim, as I said, but a volunteer of divine love, fully aware of the pain he'd face, choosing to bear it as part of his mission. So the cross, in this view, really represents the burden of humanity's ignorance, my selfishness, my materialism. I think the cross really stands out as a representation of that. And Jesus's willingness to pick up the cross and carry it and be an example to all of us really speaks to his profound compassion for everyone, regardless of our failures. It's a great lesson. Jesus could have very easily used his power and called down angels, right? And use of divine power to escape. But he silently absorbed hatred with love. He turned the other cheek. He prayed for his oppressors and showed us an amazing example of spiritual strength. And that strength is not in conquering necessarily others, but in overcoming oneself. We all carry our own cross. We all have our burdens to overcome. And what a great example Christ gave us. Moving on, let's now do our best to take the lessons from this book. Obviously, there's 30 chapters. We covered a handful, but where do we go with this? How do we apply these lessons to modern life some 2,000 years later, right? And I think it starts with questions, right? Specifically about forgiveness. Who can we forgive? Just take a pause here for a couple seconds. Who in our life have we not forgiven? Who are we holding grudges against, or angst against, or resentment against, right? Compassion. Are there people in our lives, people that we encounter that we could show more compassion to take a pause and think about that. I can think of some instances where I'm still holding on to some of these things. How can we show humility, right? How can we reduce our pridefulness? Um, Remember, if we're living on earth, if we're in that part of our evolution, we are more tied to the material world and things pleasing to our senses as opposed to that Christ-like pure love and compassion. So how can we be more humble? How can we reduce our pride and our ego? And then I think another way to think about applying these lessons to our daily life is who can we help today, right? Christ's life on earth was full of charity, full of helping those in need, not the healthy, as we talked about previously, but those in need. So who can we help today? I'm sure we can all think of several opportunities to help. So I think the symbolic message here is challenges as opportunities, right? Whenever we face issues in life, there's strife, there's people that don't like us, that are mean to us, that go out of their way to hurt us. Let's try to forgive them. There's definitely opportunities to be more humble, opportunities to provide more charity. So to follow the master is to carry his light into every corner of darkness. And I'm not suggesting that I'm a master at this. There's a line that I like to remind myself of is my journey on earth through this life is not to be sinless, right? I can't do that, but to sin less. So the more I think about Christ and the good news and the examples that he shared with us, I just attempt to sin less and less every day into from my corner of darkness in my life, if that makes any sense. But again, I fail every day. But get up and try to be less and less of the person that's tied to pride and ego, if you will. So to recap this, to summarize the good news, I really, if we were to summarize this into one slide, right, the good news could be summarized as love, humility, and compassion. Pride and selfishness are incompatible, and there's our struggle. There's our cross, my cross every day. I am full of pride and ego at times. I am definitely selfish at times, and in those moments, it's incompatible with living the good news. I mean, that's my cross to bear, and that's my challenge is to change that, to turn that. So I think we're all here to conquer the kingdom of heaven, all right, which is in our souls. And we have that opportunity every day. And if we can just focus on the precious present moment, right? Don't worry so much about yesterday. Don't give too much anxiety about tomorrow. Just focus on Christ's teachings and applying them right now. And each day can get a little bit better. So I think the good news brings new light to Jesus's message, right? There's some quotes here, right? The Spiritism has not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it by explaining and developing it for a new era of understanding. It is the promised consoler sent to remind us of Christ's teachings and reveal their deeper meaning. And I think that if we take this approach, it really encourages us to pursue inner transformation, Christ-like transformation. We all have free will. We all have the ability to choose a better path. And the gospel's not necessarily a book of the past, but a living guide of the soul. Yes, it speaks to events that occurred on the earth over some 2,000 years ago, but it's a living guide. It's think about it as the playbook for the team that you're on, right? Or the map to the pot of gold, if you will. When I think of Christ saving me, right? It's not through that hanging on the cross and necessarily dying for me, but it was the lessons that he taught me in the process. Everything that we read in the good news shows us the way of his light and his love, and gives us the playbook, the map, the step-by-step instructions on how to live. And again, I come up short every day, but I wake up every morning with the intention of getting better and better. And as from a Spiritist perspective, I think the way I like to talk about this is we have this spiritual path of evolution. Each of us created in that bottom left corner, right? Simple, lacking knowledge, and life after life, lesson after lesson, suffering after suffering, redemption, atonement, life after life. We progress to that Christ-like perfection of a pure spirit. If we're here on earth, we're definitely down in that third order. We have a lot of work to do, but knowing that our destiny, our promised destiny, is we will evolve in our own time with as much suffering as is required that we inflict on ourselves. Our cause and effect is what I like to call it. My actions today impact my reality tomorrow, and I'm living the consequences of my choices yesterday and in previous lives. And whatever challenges I face, whatever cross I'm bearing, was co-created by my choices, and I'm working towards that ultimate destiny of becoming a pure spirit. And I think it's important that I recognize and that we talk about that we don't do this alone. I think many times in life, I've said, man, it'd be easier if I just lived on a deserted island, or, I'm going to go live under a bridge and not be tempted by society. Here's the thing. We can't do this alone. Christ shared with us wonderful lessons, impacted not just those apostles of the time, but millions of people and spirits around the world that continue today. And the key message here, I believe, is we need each other. I cannot grow and evolve without others in my life. The immediate family I'm in today, the world around me, and even the bigger picture of the world that I may not touch individually, but influenced by all the decisions that are happening, my opinions, my choices, the way I vote, the way I choose to help others or not help others. These are all choices. And if I'm truly bearing my cross and I'm truly attempting to live a Christ-like life, I got to make those choices to help all of these people, including the people that have done me wrong. Am I praying for my enemies? Am I loving my enemies? Am I doing my best to give a hand up to those in need? And am I living in a way that promotes that love and light of Christ? I like to look at challenges now and offenses of others as opportunities to turn the other cheek, as opportunities to forgive. Right? And again, I fail daily, but less and less. And it's all because of the interactions of the people around me and my desire to follow the example of Christ as much as possible. So tying this book into our everyday lives, how do we do it, right? We can read this book, we can read other books, we can attend lectures like this and other lectures, right? But ultimately, it takes living every day. Putting my head on the pillow at night and questioning the choices I made, not condemning myself for failure, but identifying areas of improvement, waking up every morning with gratitude of all the blessings in my life. I start my day with I read a chapter in the Good News or a couple pages in different books, 2 or 3 of them every morning. I have a gratitude journal where I start my day with just writing down what I'm grateful for and remembering the mistakes I made from yesterday and making a plan to do less of that. And again, I fail every day, but my start of the day and my goal, and I think for all of us, the goal should simply be like those early apostles. Their mission following the death of Christ, all right, was to carry on his message. I like to look at myself as a follower of the way, is what I call it. And I think that's what early Christians were called. That's where I get that from, right? They weren't called Christians. They were called followers of the way. And over time, followers of the way are now called Christians. And my job, my mission on earth, and I think all of our mission, is to do our best to follow his examples, to live the way he lived, and to grow closer and closer to coming from a place of Christ-like love and purity for our fellow man, helping the lepers, embracing the sinners, forgiving our persecutors, um, not doubting, being okay to question and doubt, but be open to the forgiveness and the love that he shared with the world. So, with that, I will summarize this again with a question, a couple questions. What teaching touched you most, and how will that change your life today? What will you work on? How can we embody the good news today? What can we do to to change some of our shortcomings or to help others overcome their issues? And you don't have to answer those obviously to us out loud, but ponder those for a few seconds and um, spend your day working on that. So at this point, I will thank you for your time and attention, and ask what questions you might have for me, and I'll do my best to try to answer them.
Al, thank you. I loved how you described this amazing book, The Good News,
Thank
and how you brought the teachings, right? Not only the teachings found in the book, so that we can better understand those Spiritist principles, just really in a practical manner and as well in a profound way. Thank you. Thank you for the reflections
you.
and for everyone, the invitation for all of us to read or reread the good news. But for all of you, before we have our Q&A session, stay tuned. And we have a few announcements. So the first one, Al, is that, and everyone, we have the 19th U.S. Spiritist Symposium. The U.S. Spiritist Federation is bringing this annual national event, and it's going to happen in September on the 20th in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Please join us and to be able to reflect on the evolution of consciousness, a path toward enlightenment. There are activities for kids and teens all day planned, and you can register at spiritist.us, or you can link the QR code in the screen. Another Another announcement is a reminder that the podcast like series, Psychology and Spirituality, A Bridge to a Better Life, based on the works by Jonah DeAndres, continue on its third year. A new episode every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, available on YouTube and Spotify. There's also a new book release, everyone. It is The Spiritist Review 1865 by Alan Kardec. You can find it by scanning the QR code or going to the spiritistbooks.us site. I think we have a couple more announcements, and always a reminder to everyone of this amazing app. It's a Spiritist app, Be My Hope, and it's an app very simple that is there to offer all of us some really interesting and uplifting content in a collection of books, videos, not books, sorry, videos, daily messages, and audio materials as well. You can download it now for free in the App Store or Google Play. We have also some seven free professionally recorded Spiritist audiobooks available. This was done, produced, sponsored by the Spirit Society of the Carolinas. So you can listen to them at your own pace. Those are all foundational works, and it's available at YouTube at Spiritist Society Carolinas. And on the screen, you see this QR code, and it's just an invitation. If you want to help the U.S. Spiritist Federation produce more publications or any other type of initiative that promotes Spiritism to everyone, scan the code on screen for your donation. Now, back to you, Al. We want to go to see all of the comments and questions because we'd love to hear more from you. And for all of you who have not sent your questions, There's still time, so feel free to do so. So the first one is for you, Al. Can you share the purpose of the Spiritist author Humberto de Campos writing this book?
Yeah, my take from this was to share the life and teachings of Christ from a Spiritist perspective. I think the physical life and the stories in the Bible, if you will, are important and they speak great messages. But just like we understand with Spiritism being to come to further explain, right?
Mhm.
At the time the gospel was written and shared, I think we had a different intelligence, a different understanding at the time. And now, centuries later, with the assistance of elevated spirits and great teachers to further explain, it just encapsulates
Mhm.
modern understanding and just helps us take it to the next level. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I always think that Spiritism, if you read Leon Denis After Death, right?
Yes.
It's so good because he starts the book talking about how the teachings that we find in Spiritism was really confined to those initiated in Egypt, Greece, etc. And
Yes.
Kardec, right? And Spiritism bring to all of us. But then we have people or spirits like Umberto de Campos that makes it even closer to us, right? It gives that intimate view of the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So somebody asked, so thank you. How does the good news differ from the canonical, cannot even pronounce it correctly, the
Right.
gospel as you find in the Bible?
Yeah. So I think it goes a little bit deeper, right?
Uh-huh.
As you read the conical, is that what it's called?
Yeah, the
The
canon. Yeah,
the canon, right? The
yeah,
doctrine or the what have you, right?
yeah.
Of of the Bible. And then if we compared it to this book, I think the timeline, I think the stories, they're all the same, right?
Mhm.
Except um, they're they're interpreted a little bit deeper. For example, in that slide where we talked about the prodigal son, right?
Yes.
It spoke to the universal meaning or impact of the son that strayed and left and ruined his inheritance, right? Just wasted the
Hmm.
money. And returning, it represents our own uh, um, ability, or often swaying or drifting away from truth. And
Yeah,
the Father represents the divine, right? And God, right? Just hey, putting His arms around us and just loving us, right?
yeah,
No matter what. And like the son that was mad, right? Our pride, right?
yeah,
Our ego, not being thankful for the return of a loved one, but oh no, look, he didn't follow the rules, and I'm going to be punished for it. Um, just the bigger picture, if you will, is how I look
yeah.
at it.
And I love it. As the word that comes to mind is that more intimate
Yes, I
setting
love
to
that.
the same story, and
Yes.
how it applies all to us, right? We can be the son that strays, the wasteful, the entitled, the envious, etc., etc. So those are all the symbolic language of the Bible in the Gospels is further explained and becomes closer to us. I love it.
And
Yeah.
then, and as I read that chapter,
Uh,
I can think of how I've been all of those in the course of my life, right?
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's profound and powerful for me.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So we have another question. For those of us who are vulnerable or marginalized, what would Jesus' message to us be based on what we read or what we read in the book?
I think that the message here for everyone is God's grace is there for all of us,
Hmm.
no matter our lot in life. Remembering, of course, that we've co-created this. Wherever we are today
Hmm.
is a result of choices we've made previously. And no matter how down and out we might be,
Hmm.
there's always that hand of God just there for us to lift us up.
Yeah.
And it starts, I think, with us accepting that believing that, and just doing our best to apply those lessons every day. It's never too late. We, like Chico Xavier shared with us, right? We can't go back and make a new beginning, but
Yeah.
we can all create a new end.
And I love what you said. Now, if I may, reflecting upon my own journey as a spiritist, and who's always reading and writing, and sometimes it's here, the lesson
Yes,
gets into from an intellectual perspective, but it must traverse all the way to the heart, to the emotional landscape of who we are. And I just remember one of my most difficult year in my whole life, a year of personal tragedies, personal loss, many, many tears, difficulties, you name it, right? I call it my country western year instead of song. It's just everything you find there. But looking back, the mercy of God was there the whole
I love
time.
it.
It was just profound teaching to me, knowing that my faith was not there, right? That I needed to really believe, to interject, to internalize all I knew in, but because the tears were plentiful, and I
Sure.
shouldn't, right? I should just know that God is there as a father, and we're not ever left alone.
It's so easy to say, but not always easy to implement. I'm with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. So, we have from a TV say, can you talk a little bit about how our faith, based on dogma versus critically questioning everything, should make sense in our context as evolving spirits?
So this was a big one for me over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I I didn't understand blind faith. I couldn't just accept the canon, if you will, um,
Mm-hmm.
which for a long time had me still attending that traditional path, but not really being there, just going through the motion. So I had discipline, right?
Yeah.
And I had conviction to try to follow the rules. But it wasn't really until I I stopped having blind faith and started questioning everything
Mm-hmm.
that I really grew. There was this is over years of my life. I remember meeting my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I was 30 something years old, and I had been on this journey of finding myself, getting away from the canon and blind faith, and you name the temple, the synagogue,
Mm-hmm.
the cult. I read everything. I went everywhere, right? And
Mm-hmm.
at some point, I meet my wife, who's a spiritist since she was 13 years old, right? Um, and she gave me a book to read, two books, the Spirits book and Nasolar.
Yeah.
Before she gave me those books, she'd ask me, "Hey Al, what do you read? What do you like? What do you believe?" And I explained what I believed, and she's, "You're a spiritist, right?"
I
Right?
love it.
Right? I'd never heard of spiritism. I had no, and all my searching, I'd never heard of Alan Kardec or
Yeah.
spiritism. But she said, "No, you're a spiritist," and she gave me the spirits book and Nostolar, and I've been hooked for 20 years,
Oh,
right?
that's awesome. Yeah.
My point is when I stopped just believing what people told me to believe, and I asked questions and I investigated and I pondered not just with my mind but with my heart. Um, that I think that answers that. That's my answer to this question.
Yeah.
The more I question, the more I ponder, the more I evolve.
Yeah.
Is my take on it.
And sometimes we think like I think you mentioned something with doubting Thomas, right? Where
Yes,
he
yes,
came and like, are you really Jesus? Let me put my finger in the wounds, etc. And sometimes we feel that as disrespectful in matters of faith, right? How dare you, Mr. Apostle Thomas?
yeah.
How dare you question Jesus? But I think there's actually a dare aspect, a daring aspect, which is be courageous
Mm,
to critically look into what you're learning so that it can be truly learned,
I
right? In
agree.
all its nuances. Yeah. So the US Spiritist Federation asks the following. Thanks for sharing the message from several of the chapters. Which story, you're in the hook now, which
Yeah,
story
right.
impacted you most personally? Can you share why?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's easy to answer for me. It's about the crucifixion. It's about the cross.
Mm.
I'll probably start crying.
And it's okay if you do.
Yeah, yeah, I've had a challenge over the years, and still to this day,
Uh-huh.
with folks that I don't know what they call themselves, maybe traditional Christians
Mhm.
or born again or evangelists, sharing my take on this, right? Um, the whole being saved or Christ dying for me, right? Um, that chapter really reminded me and helped me understand what I believe, and what I think is the truth is yes, Christ died, and in his dying, it, it wasn't his death that saved me, right? It was he forgave his murderers.
Yes.
He prayed for his persecutors.
Yeah.
He walked the earth and helped everyone. And we all know that he had the ability and the power
Yes.
to not go through that,
Yes.
right? But he chose to teach me, to teach you
Yes.
what's possible. And that's profound. And rereading this and preparing for this talk, I was in a car. Yeah, I'm out
Mm-hmm.
of town for work, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
staying in like a corporate Airbnb. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I'm using a car that's here, and whoever drives that car every day um, had Christian music on when I turned
Mm.
it. And yesterday, I'm 50, almost 59 years old, Marcia, and I really believe what I believe, right? But I was brought to tears
Yeah.
by a country western spiritist song
Yeah.
yesterday because of the lyrics, not the music, but the lyrics. It totally depicts what we're talking about. Christ lived for me, and
Yes.
he chose to die, right, and not fight it because he taught me this amazing lesson. So there I was, driving down this road in Indiana, had to pull over because I was just crying and so touched by his love for me. Sorry, that's a lot.
No, it's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Because it is really not misunderstand, but it's really a revisiting the deep teachings that Jesus brought, and it was not intellectual. I talk
Right.
about intellect and heart.
Sure.
We the third one, right?
Yeah, the consoler.
Well, yeah, with the hands.
Yeah.
He lived. He expressed love in its highest definition every single time, including in that atrocious moment of the cross. Right?
Yes.
It's
Exactly.
really beautiful, and I think I may have to tell you that your tears are really impactful because it talks about the message. It's not just words. Again,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
really impactful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. In the good news, suffering. So we're talking about the crucifixion, right? Suffering is not an enemy, but a teacher. What can we learn through its symbolic storytelling?
Well, again, suffering is how we grow, right? It's an opportunity.
Hmm.
Every challenge we face, remembering, of course, that we've created this, right?
Hmm.
We are co-creating this.
Hmm.
So whatever I face, I deserve, if you will, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
created it, right? So remembering that and making that conscious choice to learn and to
Hmm.
grow. My wife had had cancer in her eye
Oh.
some time
Mm.
ago, and I'll never forget this. She thanked God for her cancer. She's much more evolved than me. All right, I don't think I could thank God for the. I think I was mad at God that she had cancer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
But my point is, that's a great example, right? Everything we face that's hard is our
yeah,
opportunity to grow,
yeah,
learn, and atone for previous choices. Make
yeah.
sense?
Yes, yes. And I did not know that she had cancer now, so my heart goes to her.
It's all
Uh,
good. It's everything's great now. So thank you.
Good, good, good. But it's important, right? This whole evolved state that you said. And I just I'm going to share to everyone. Last year, I was in a conference. It was just beautiful, a conference. I'm a student of Joanna DeAngelis, and her book, The Psychology of Gratitude, was the highlight of this entire 3 day conference. And it was broken down, right, by topic, et cetera, et cetera. And lo and behold, I get to go to a group by not by chance, of course, it's never by chance, but I was randomly selected to go to this group that talked about the gratitude for the pain, the suffering that we receive, and it was, oh my goodness, it impacted all of us. So at the end of those sessions, we had like 3 or 4 sessions because we met Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at night and morning. So 4 times we had a small group to talk about the topic and how impacted us. And it's really the hardest thing to do that, to be
Absolutely.
grateful for what is not so easy to swallow, if you will. But
100%.
yeah, thank you. I think this is the last question we have, Al.
Okay.
And so you mentioned the book reflection, the book's reflections on the Spiritist concept that suffering is often a natural result of the law of cause and effect. Can you explain? And I think the question is more for those who do not know about the law of cause and effect. Can you break it down further?
Yeah. Um, so there's a universal law of progress, obviously, right? We
Mhm.
just like in that graph that I shared with you, right? We're
Yeah.
created simple and lacking knowledge. Christ Himself was
Uh-huh.
created simple and lacking knowledge, right? Through
Mhm.
life after life, the spirit evolves, and we're living the consequences of our choices. So,
Yeah.
cause and effect, from a very straightforward perspective, is no matter what I'm like, my wife's cancer, like my
Yeah. Yeah.
struggles with different things, right? It's a direct consequence of choice. There's a great story, and I can't tell you the book or the author, but it's
Mm.
one of the Spiritist books, and it talks about a gifted surgeon, right,
Mhm.
using his hands to cure people.
Yeah.
In a previous life, if we go back way back many lives, he used his hands to kill people
Mm.
with a
Mm.
knife, right?
Mhm.
Another life, he was a soldier. He used a sword to defend his country. And in this life, he's using his hands to save lives. And I think that speaks to the progression for each of us and living the reality that we've created. And little by little, we improve and improve and improve. And next thing you know, we're just better on a better path for good, as opposed to
Yeah.
being more aligned with our ego and our pride, and things that are pleasing to our senses. Does that make sense? Did that answer the
Oh,
question?
oh, it does. Absolutely. And we often think that a law of cause and effect, or based on East religion, karma
Hmm.
is bad for bad, right? Eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, etc. And it's not. It's all about learning by perhaps facing the afflictions that you have caused to others so that you can learn. It's a no-no,
Yeah, right.
right? I'm
Yeah,
not going to be put in jail to learn that it's a no-no. I'm going to suffer and feel that, wow, I did not know. And here I am. I understand now forever and ever as a spirit that that's really something I should never do. So those really hardcore lessons that come so that you can break the cycle of what comes next. So this is beautiful. But I think this is it, Al. I'm going to say thank you. Thank you so much. It is very, very good. And I wanted to absolutely tell everyone we have the U.S. Independence, right, next week, next Friday. So we will not have activities on the 5th of July. So, oh, look at me. I'm looking at myself. But we'll come back. We'll continue to our weekly Spiritism talk series on the 12th of July. And I will be blessed with that opportunity to talk about thoughts and emotions. So I wanted to invite everyone to be back. And Al, before we close our live session, do you mind perhaps giving us our final remarks or prayer, whatever comes to your heart?
yeah. I'm happy to say a final prayer. I'll do my best. Okay. So let's do our best to connect with our Father, with our mentors, our guardian angels, and simply end today's talk with gratitude. Gratitude for those that have gone before us. Gratitude for those that have shared their experiences with us. Gratitude for the choices we've made in the past that have led us to where we are today. And focus our attention and our effort and our desire to simply follow the example of Christ, to take the good news and use it as an opportunity to not beat ourselves up about yesterday, not worry about tomorrow, but just simply focus on the precious present moment that we're in right now, knowing that God loves us and that He sent us Christ to teach us, and that redemption and the ability to evolve and the promise of perfection is ours, one day at a time, one life at a time, with suffering as a gift and an opportunity to grow. So, Father, we thank You for life. We thank You for free will, and we pray to use that as a responsibility more and more each day to simply follow Christ and to be a follower of the way. Amen.